Result, I was getting muscle cramps and fatigue. I felt awful. I'm not even, it was bad. And so the next time that I do the Highline Trail, I'm going to be taking electrolytes from this video sponsor, Drink Element. Because hiking is the thing that I do that makes me sweat the most, that's always where my mind goes when it comes to these Element ad reads. However, Element is not just for hikers or athletes. It's for anyone who sweats. Any situation, whether you're shoveling your driveway or just lifting weights at the gym, whatever it is, if you're sweating, you want to replace your electrolytes. You are not going to find any other company whose electrolytes taste as good as Element's. Citrus salt is the flavor I'm holding right here. This one's my favorite. Lemonade salt is also so good though. Maybe that one's my favorite. It's so hard to decide. They all taste incredible, and they do it without including any sugar either. Like pretty much every other electrolyte company, the only way it's even like drinkable is because they load it up with sugar. But Element has no sugar, and somehow it still beats all the others in taste. But don't take my word for it. You need to try it for yourself, and you can actually do it while getting a really good deal if you go to drinkelement.com/KyleHatesHiking. That's drinklmnt.com/KyleHatesHiking. You can also click the link at the top of the description. Do that and make a purchase of whatever flavor sounds best. I'd probably recommend citrus, but again, I could go lemonade depending on the day. And when you make a purchase through my link, you're gonna get a sample pack of 8 additional Element sticks thrown in with your order for no extra cost. So you're gonna get to sample all of their most popular flavors and just get some free Element. It's a really good deal. And so one more time, drinklmnt.com/KyleHatesHiking, or click that link at the top of the description. And now let's get back into these crazy stories. So officials started to wonder if maybe Mark had actually traveled far beyond their main search area after all. I mean, did they limit their focus too early in the process? I mentioned it earlier, but if he had really made it to Granite Park by early evening, then he would have been hiking very fast. And I personally find it hard to believe that he would have hiked at that pace. And so I can see where park officials were coming from when they wondered if he had maybe gone down a completely different trail after all. And on top of all that, maybe it's possible that the 2 visitors who supposedly saw Mark, way up the trail, actually mistook him for someone else. And maybe Mark was on a completely different hike when whatever happened. In my mind, there's one detail in this whole mystery that I haven't really, I mentioned it, but I haven't talked about it enough yet. And that's the fact that for some unknown reason, this kind, smart, and just good person, Mark, well, he left his dog in his unlocked car. And that's the detail that makes me genuinely lean towards the theory that Mark hadn't actually strayed that far from the parking lot at all, and that he was always planning on coming right back. And then there was another possible theory. Did Mark slip on some loose rocks and tumble down a steep cliff? Did he step off trail for a better view and maybe lose his footing? Now, I mentioned earlier that the Highline Trail is insanely narrow at certain points, and there's these huge cliffs, these huge drop-offs, and it would be very unforgiving for any hiker who made even the smallest wrong move, no matter how experienced they were on the trails. And the thing is, if this did happen to Mark, then it wouldn't have been the first or the last time that tragedy struck on the Highline Trail. To understand just how dangerous this trail can be, you have to actually look at what happened on August 27th, 2025. That's when 73-year-old Diane Bunker and a group of friends visited Glacier National Park from their home state of Iowa. Diane was a retired dental hygienist, a former jazzercise instructor, and someone who was not going to let her age slow her down. On this particular morning, Diane and her friends planned on hiking the Highline Trail just like Mark had supposedly done. And again, this is a super popular trail. They were taking their sweet time hiking, but that also meant that they were able to stop and take in the breathtaking views of big sky country, Montana. As they hiked along, the trail started to get narrower and narrower, and Diane, as well as her crew, found themselves almost clinging to the mountainside in a very thin, exposed line. Again, I remember from when I did this hike before either one of these stories happened, the gravel on this trail is very, very loose, and the cliff face below is so steep that it literally makes your stomach drop. I also recall them having cables along the side so that you could grab on. I mean, that's how crazy this trail is. And I'm not even someone who's usually bothered by heights as well. I mean, it's insane. And so anyways, the group continued to move slowly across the thin trail until suddenly the unthinkable happened. All of a sudden, a single trail boot shifted, kicking up gravel into the air and over the edge of the cliffside below. Before anyone in the group could react to the slip, they heard a sharp, sudden cry that sliced through the wind, and in all of the dust, chaos, and confusion, the group looked around and they realized that Diane was gone. They rushed to the edge and they looked over it, which is freaky enough, but they couldn't see anything clearly, just hundreds of feet of nothing, right? They called out Diane's name over and over, but they never got a response. At approximately 11 a.m., park staff were alerted that a woman had fallen from the Highline Trail. Rangers responded swiftly and emergency crews were mobilized, and it wasn't long before the group of hikers could hear the massive roar of the Two Bear Air Rescue Helicopter. That's the name of the organization, Two Bear Air. They heard this helicopter gliding along the cliff face, scanning the steep terrain beneath the trail. I mean, this is just, again, I keep saying it, but as someone who's been on this trail, like, I can't even imagine this, man. The mountainside dropped roughly 450 feet, all of which is jagged, unforgiving rock, and as the rescue crews lowered into the canyon, they finally located Diane Bunker. Unfortunately, it didn't take long after they got to her that they realized that this was not a mission to save her. This was a recovery mission. And so she was transferred to the county coroner's office, and she had passed away from the traumatic injuries that she sustained in the fall. Park officials responded to this disaster about as quickly as anyone could ever hope, but sometimes not even the best rescue crews can undo one false step, even on one of the most popular trails in a very popular national park. Diane's story is tragic, and to bring it back to the first story, Mark's story, I can't help but wonder if maybe that's the same thing that happened to him. And maybe in his case, especially because he started so late, maybe there was just nobody around to see it. After tons of searching and very little to work off of, search crews were beginning to lose hope of ever finding out the truth of what happened to Mark. And unfortunately for Mark's sweet dog and his sweet family, anyone who loved him, no one ever found out the truth. On July 18th, after 9 grueling days of searching, the park scaled back their organized efforts to find Mark. The operation moved into what they called limited continuous mode. You know, patrols would continue and the investigation would stay open, and search teams would